I said the words calmly. Too calmly, according to the silence that followed. I'm not upset, I repeated, my voice steady as the deck beneath my boots vibrated with a low hum of the ISS Wayfarer. I'm reevaluating my loyalties. Across the command chamber, Admiral Heshtel froze. The avian crest along her elongated skull stiffened, feathers flaring in a reflex she couldn't fully suppress. Around us, the bridge officers, humans and aliens alike, shifted uneasily. Consoles dimmed their lights, as if the ship itself sensed the tension. That was the problem with speaking honestly in the Galactic Coalition. Honesty wasn't illegal. It was just inconvenient. I had been a loyal asset for 12 years. 12 years of joint operations, diplomatic escorts, classified retrievals, and quiet wars the public would never know existed. 12 years of believing that the Coalition, this sprawling alliance of species, cultures, and ideals, stood for something better than the fractured mess humanity had crawled out of. And now, standing in front of the highest-ranking non-human officer I'd ever served under, I realized I had been wrong. Not maliciously wrong. Not naively wrong. Systemically wrong. Commander Reyes, Heshtel said carefully, each word chosen like a chess move. You are aware that statements implying divided loyalty during an active operation are grounds for immediate suspension. Yes, Admiral, I replied. I'm also aware that ordering the abandonment of a civilian habitat to preserve a strategic advantage violates Article 7 of the Coalition Charter. A murmur rippled across the bridge. The holographic display behind her showed the reason for this confrontation. Habitat Ring K-317, a vast, rotating arc of metal and light orbiting a dying red star. Home to nearly 3 million civilians. Mostly Kelri, some humans, a scattering of traders and refugees. And beneath it, projected in ominous crimson, the approaching silhouettes of the Virex Armada. They are already lost, Heshtel said. The Virex will reach the ring in 40 minutes. Evacuation capacity is insufficient. If we remain, we lose the Wayfarer and compromise the defensive line at Relos. If we leave, I said, we leave 3 million people to be harvested. The word harvested hung there, ugly and unavoidable. The Virex didn't conquer worlds. They consumed them. Neural matter, cultural data, genetic diversity, everything stripped, cataloged, and absorbed into their hive intelligence. The bridge was quiet now. No murmurs. No shifting. Just listening. This decision was approved by Strategic Command, Heshtel said, including human representatives. That hurt more than I expected. I nodded slowly. I know. That was the moment something inside me shifted, not snapped, not broke, but realigned, like a compass needle finding a truer north. I'm not upset, I said again, softer this time. I'm reevaluating my loyalties. I hadn't always been this way. When humanity first joined the Galactic Coalition, I was a lieutenant fresh out of the Sol Defense Fleet. Like most of us, I'd grown up on stories of first contact, the terror, the awe, the impossible realization that we weren't alone. The Coalition had seemed like salvation, shared technology, shared defense, a chance to matter on a galactic stage without annihilating ourselves first. They needed humans. Not for our strength or our technology, we were mediocre by galactic standards, but for our adaptability, our stubborn creativity, our irritating habit of refusing to accept that's how it's always been as a final answer. I leaned into that reputation. Missions where others froze, I improvised. Where doctrine failed, I experimented. I earned commendations, promotions, trust. Especially Heshtel's. She had been my commanding officer for 6 years. Stern, brilliant, deeply committed to the Coalition's long-term survival. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't corrupt. She was just willing to make sacrifices I no longer believed were acceptable. Commander, she said now, lowering her voice, you are treading dangerously close to insubordination. I crossed that line the moment I decided not to pretend this was acceptable, I replied. Her dark, multifaceted eyes studied me. What are you proposing? I took a breath. This was the middle of it, the point of no return. I propose we stay, I said. We deploy the experimental jump anchors, create a micro-relay, and evacuate as many civilians as possible. We hold the Virex long enough for them to escape. The anchors are untested, she snapped. They could tear the ring apart. They could, I agreed. Or they could save millions. And the Wayfarer? I met her gaze. She's tough. And so are we. Silence stretched again. I could feel every eye on me. Humans. Kelry. Even a pair of silent Threx engineers, their chitinous limbs folded tight. You are asking me to risk a capital ship, Heshtel said, and destabilize the entire Relo's defensive corridor on hope. I'm asking you to remember why this alliance exists, I said. Because if survival means becoming the kind of monsters we're fighting, then what's the point? Her crest flattened. A sign of internal conflict if you knew her species. You are emotional, she said. Yes, I replied. But I'm also right. That was when the bridge lights flickered. Admiral, a sensor officer called out. Virex advanced elements have exited subspace. Time to contact. 37 minutes. Heshtel looked at the display. Then at me. You will follow orders, she said finally. Or you will be relieved of duty. I exhaled slowly. I understand, I said. Then I tapped my wrist console. Chief Engineer Patel, I said calmly, initiate jump anchor warm-up. Every human on the bridge stiffened. Commander, Heshtel barked. Patel's voice crackled over the comm, sir. Strategic hasn't authorized. I know, I said. This is my call. A pause. Then, quietly, anchors warming. The bridge erupted. Heshtel stepped toward me, her talons clicking against the deck. You will countermand that order immediately. I can't, I said. Because if I do, I'll spend the rest of my life knowing I chose a ship over 3 million people. Security officers moved. Slowly, hesitantly. I am placing you under arrest, Heshtel said. I figured, I replied. That was when the Kelry ambassador, who had been standing silently near the viewport, spoke for the first time. If I may, she said, her voice melodic and cold, Commander Reyes is not alone. Heads turned. Explain, Heshtel demanded. The ambassador raised a slender hand. Our people have monitored human behavior closely since your species joined the coalition. You are inconsistent, frustrating, excessively moral. A few humans snorted to spite themselves. But, she continued, you are also predictable in one regard. When confronted with injustice, you act, even when it costs you. She inclined her head toward me. The Kelry fleets are en route. We will support this evacuation. Heshtel's eyes widened. You cannot. We can, the ambassador said. And we will. Another voice chimed in. So will we. The Threx engineer stepped forward. Our kind remembers when the coalition chose strategy over our brood worlds. We have not forgotten. One by one, confirmations lit up across the tactical display. Independent ships, local militias, civilian transports turning back instead of fleeing. A human helmsman whispered, Guess we're doing this. Heshtel looked around, realization dawning. This wasn't just my rebellion. It was a fracture. Commander Reyes, she said slowly, do you understand what you've started? Yes, I said. A line. The battle was chaos. The Virex came like a living storm, organic war forms bristling with weapons grown, not built. They adapted to our fire patterns within minutes, shifting frequencies, evolving countermeasures in real time. The Wayfarer shook under repeated impacts. Hull breaches flared and sealed. Casualty reports scrolled faster than I could read. But the jump anchors held. One by one, evacuation corridors opened. Civilian ships streamed through, lights blinking like fireflies fleeing a forest fire. I coordinated defenses, rerouted power, took a plasma burn to the shoulder when a console exploded beside me. I barely noticed. All I could see were the numbers ticking down. 3 million. 2 million. 1 million. Commander, Patel shouted over the din. Anchors are destabilizing. We have minutes. How many left? I asked. 400,000. Then we buy them minutes. I ordered the Wayfarer forward, putting our bulk between the Virex and the ring. Allied ships followed, forming a ragged shield. We lost 2 cruisers in the first minute. In the second, the Virex breached our line. In the third, a human frigate rammed a Virex hive ship at relativistic speed, annihilating both. I remember thinking, dimly, we'll be court-martialed for this. If we live. Final evacuation complete, someone yelled. Disengage anchors. I ordered. Space twisted. The ring vanished into jump space, just as a Virex biolance carved through where it had been. Silence followed, broken only by alarms and ragged breathing. We had done it. The aftermath was complicated. The coalition didn't collapse. It didn't expel humanity. Instead, it paused. Inquiries were launched. Courts convened. Articles were debated that hadn't been touched in centuries. I was stripped of my rank. Officially. Unofficially. I became something else. A symbol. Heshtal visited me once, in the quiet of a recovery ward. You cost us a strategic corridor, she said. I know, I replied. You saved millions. I know. She studied me for a long moment. You were right to reevaluate your loyalties. I smiled faintly. So were a lot of others. She inclined her head. The coalition will change because of this. Good, I said. If it doesn't, then it was never worth being loyal to in the first place. As she left, I looked out at the stars, still dangerous, still vast, still full of hard choices. I wasn't upset. I was reevaluating my loyalties. And for the first time in a long while, I knew exactly where they stood. I wasn't shouting when I said it. That was what unsettled them the most. I'm not upset, I said, hands clasped behind my back as the command chamber of the ISS Wayfarer fell quiet. I'm reevaluating my loyalties. The words echoed faintly against alloy walls polished to a ceremonial shine. A dozen species stood frozen around me. Avian, mammalian, chidness, things that no longer fit clean categories. Humans were the minority here, as we usually were in Coalition Command. Across from me, Admiral Heshtal's neck crest rose involuntarily, her feathers stiff with restrained agitation. She had commanded fleets before humanity achieved faster than light travel. She had survived 3 galactic wars. And yet, she hadn't expected this. Commander Reyes, she said carefully, you are aware that loyalty reviews are not conducted during live operations. I'm aware, I replied. But live operations are when loyalty actually matters. Behind her, the main holo display rotated slowly, projecting the reason for this confrontation. Habitat Ring K317. A massive orbital arc circling a dying red star. 3 million civilians lived there, mostly Kelry families, some humans, traders, refugees, children who had never seen their homeworlds. And beyond the ring, emerging from fractured blue subspace, were the unmistakable signatures of the Virex Collective. They will arrive in 42 minutes, Heshtel said. Evacuation estimates project a maximum extraction of 30%. And the remaining 70? I asked. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The Virex didn't occupy planets. They processed them. Minds, memories, cultures, broken down and absorbed into a single expanding intelligence. Every species the Virex consumed technically survived as fragments inside something that was no longer them. You're ordering us to withdraw? I said. I'm ordering us to preserve the Relo's defensive line, Heshtel replied. If the Wayfarer is lost here, 6 additional systems fall within a cycle. So we sacrifice 3 million people to save projections, I said quietly. This decision was ratified by Strategic Command, she said, including the human delegation. That hurt more than I expected. I felt it settle somewhere deep, not as anger, but as a slow, grinding realization. I see, I said. The bridge officers were watching now. Humans, Kelry, Threx engineers. No one spoke. That was when I said it again. I'm not upset, I said. I'm reevaluating my loyalties. I hadn't always questioned the coalition. When humanity first joined, we'd been desperate. Earth was politically united for the first time in its history, not out of enlightenment, but fear. The coalition had arrived like gods in ships of impossible geometry and offered us a choice: cooperate, or be left alone in a universe far more dangerous than we had imagined. We chose cooperation. They needed us, not for our technology, which lagged behind most member species, but for our adaptability. Humans were disturbingly flexible. We rewrote doctrine mid-battle. We questioned ancient strategies. We had a habit of surviving situations we statistically shouldn't. I built my career on that reputation. 12 years of joint operations. Classified missions. Quiet wars that never made it to public records. I believed the coalition stood for collective survival without surrendering moral agency. I believed that right up until it asked me to leave 3 million civilians behind because saving them was inefficient. Commander Reyes, Heshtel said, her tone sharpening, you are approaching insubordination. Yes, Admiral, I said, but not recklessness. I tapped my console, bringing up a schematic. The experimental jump anchors. They were designed for emergency habitat extraction. They are untested at this scale, she snapped. They could destabilize the ring. They could, I agreed. Or they could save millions. And if they fail, she demanded, then history will judge us for trying, I said. Not for calculating how many lives were acceptable to lose. The bridge was silent. You are emotional, Heshtel said. Yes, I replied. But I'm also correct. Alarms chirped softly as the tactical timer ticked down. Virex advanced elements exiting subspace, a sensor officer reported. Time to contact, 38 minutes. Heshtel's gaze hardened. You will stand down, she said, or you will be relieved of duty. I inhaled slowly. I understand. Then I opened a channel. Chief Engineer Patel, I said. Begin jump anchor warm-up. The bridge erupted. Commander, Heshtel shouted. Patel hesitated only a second. Anchors warming. Security officers shifted uncertainly. I am placing you under arrest, Heshtel said. I figured. I replied calmly. That was when Ambassador Seleth of the Kelry stepped forward. The Kelry will not abandon our people, she said, her voice cutting cleanly through the noise. Our defense flotillas are en route. Heshtel turned sharply. You cannot authorize. We already have, Seleth replied. A Threx engineer clicked its mandibles. The Threx remember, when the coalition sacrificed our brood worlds for strategic necessity. We will not repeat that mistake. One by one, new signals appeared on the display. Civilian ships turning back. Local militias responding. Independent captains choosing a side. Heshtal looked around, realization dawning. "This is mutiny," she said. "No," I replied. "This is accountability." The Virex arrived like a living tide. Organic warforms surged forward, adapting to every volley. Their weapons weren't built. They were grown, evolved in real time to counter whatever hurt them last. The Wayfarer shook violently. Hull alarm screamed. Casualty reports flooded in. But the anchors held. Evacuation corridors bloomed open across the ring. Transports poured through. Families, children, entire neighborhoods reduced to blinking life signs racing for safety. I coordinated defenses, rerouted power, ignored the pain in my shoulder where shrapnel had torn through my uniform. Anchors destabilizing. Patel shouted. "We have minutes." "How many left?" I asked. 600,000. "Then we hold." We pushed forward, Allied ships forming a battered wall. We lost cruisers. We lost friends. A human frigate rammed a Virex hive ship at near-light speed, annihilating both in a flash that lit the void. Finally, final evacuation complete. "Disengage anchors," I ordered. Space twisted. The ring vanished into jump space, just as a Virex biolance cut through the vacuum where it had been. Silence followed. Broken. Scarred. Alive. The political fallout was brutal. I was stripped of rank. Officially discharged. But the coalition didn't fracture. It paused. Inquiries were launched. Ancient doctrines were questioned. Articles of the Charter, long treated as symbolic, were suddenly enforced. Entire species publicly sided with what the media began calling the Reyes line, the point where survival without conscience stopped being acceptable. Heshtal visited me once during recovery. "You cost us a strategic corridor," she said. "I know. You saved 3 million lives." "I know." She studied me. "You were right to reevaluate your loyalties." "So were a lot of others," I said. She inclined her head. "The coalition will change." I looked out at the stars, still dangerous, still full of impossible choices. "I hope so," I said. "Because if loyalty only flows upward, it's not loyalty. It's obedience." As she left, I felt no regret. I wasn't upset. I was reevaluating my loyalties. And this time, I chose people over projections, even if it cost me everything else.